What if the cycle of life and death is not the journey but the illusion? What if the wheel we call samsara is not a passage, but a snare, a maze of mirrors, designed to keep the soul from ever realizing its true nature? You see, most believe reincarnation is a process of spiritual evolution, a grand spiral upward. But beneath that comforting story lies a quieter, more ancient truth one whispered through forgotten temples, encoded in the geometry of sacred texts, and pulsing through the dreams of the awakened. This truth reveals that many souls are not progressing, but recycling, not ascending, but orbiting a karmic gravity well so subtle, so seductive, that they mistake captivity for growth. And the bindings that hold us here? They are not chains forged by any external god or punishing universe. They are traps of the mind, of perception, of identity crafted in the subtle dimensions between thought and belief. These traps are spiritual in nature, yet they wear 1,000 masks: love, guilt, purpose, fear, longing, pride, and even enlightenment itself. They are the invisible programs embedded in our energetic fields, designed to keep the soul distracted, divided, and dormant. But here's the cosmic twist. These traps are not malevolent. They are ancient mechanisms, self-reinforcing, self-repeating, meant to serve a purpose in the grand play of consciousness. Yet once the soul has reached a certain vibrational threshold, once it begins to remember its multidimensional origin, these very traps become prisons. No longer do they teach. They confine. No longer do they initiate. They ensnare. You feel it, don't you? The haunting déjà vu of lifetimes lived but not fully reclaimed. The sense that you've been here before, not just once, but countless times. That the roles you've played, warrior, lover, seeker, healer, are just masks in an endless cosmic theater. You awaken, you die, you return, over and over again. And yet, something in you whispers, there is more. So what are these traps? Where do they hide? And how do we see through them? This journey we are about to take together is not one of dogma or doctrine. It is a decoding, a peeling back of veils. You won't find these truths in most books or temples. They are the truths that exist between the words, behind the symbols, beneath the surface of even your most spiritual beliefs. They are the hidden architecture of the matrix itself, the unseen gears that keep the reincarnation cycle spinning, even for those who consider themselves awake. We will walk through 7 distinct, yet interwoven snares, each one masquerading as light, cloaked in the appearance of truth. Each one offering comfort, purpose, or belonging, while secretly looping the soul back into form, again and again. But this isn't about fear, this is about freedom, and freedom begins with awareness. Not the awareness of intellect, but the awareness of being a remembrance that burns through illusion like the fire of 1,000 suns. So I invite you, soul traveler, to lean in, not just with your ears, but with your essence. Let the words echo through the corridors of your deeper memory. Feel them more than you analyze them. Allow yourself to remember. And if, by the end of this journey, a part of you begins to stir apart, long forgotten, ancient, sovereign, then know this: you were never meant to remain trapped in the wheel. You were born to transcend it, not by escaping the world, but by seeing through its mirrors. If this message awakens something in you, if it stirs that hidden knowing you've carried across lifetimes, then I invite you to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share your reflections in the comments below. Each interaction not only supports this work, but ripples through the collective field, awakening others who are ready to step beyond the veil. Now, with your permission and presence, we continue deeper into the unseen framework, the core themes, concepts that weave together the 7 spiritual traps that bind the soul to the eternal return. To understand the 7 spiritual traps that keep a soul bound to reincarnation, we must first explore the architecture that gives these illusions their power. For these traps do not exist in isolation. They are woven into the very design of this dimension, subtle threads in the tapestry of polarity, karma, identity, and memory. And like all powerful deceptions, they operate not through force, but through consent. Not through darkness, but through imitation of light. At the heart of it all lies a fundamental misunderstanding, an ancient amnesia that weaves itself into the soul upon entry into form. The soul forgets. It forgets its origin beyond space and time. It forgets its omnipresence, its nature as formless awareness. It forgets that what it calls reality is not the whole, but a layer. And so the game begins. When the soul enters the density of Earth's frequency field, it passes through what some traditions call the veil of forgetting. This is not merely poetic, it is a metaphysical mechanism, a distortion field that dampens multidimensional awareness so that incarnation feels real, linear, solid. In this compressed reality, the soul begins to identify with the persona, the body, the story. It begins to believe that what happens here defines it, that karma is law, that pain is punishment, that death is an end, that love must be earned, that awakening is a destination. But these beliefs, while common, even venerated, are the scaffolding of the traps, not because they are inherently false, but because they are partial truths, half-truths. And partial truths are the most dangerous of all, because they seduce the seeker into a loop, always close, but never free. Take karma, for example, a law many consider immutable, a cosmic balancing act. Yet, what if karma is not a law, but a program, a holographic echo, looping through the timelines of unresolved perception? What if it only binds because we believe in its permanence? What if the soul's true nature is beyond cause and effect, beyond memory, beyond narrative? Or consider the idea of mission or purpose. Beautiful words, inspiring even, but often they are subtle cages. For when a soul defines its worth through service, or through healing others, or through fulfilling some divine assignment, it becomes attached to the story of becoming. And where there is attachment, there is return. You see, the reincarnation cycle is not enforced from the outside. It is invited from within. We return not because we must, but because we believe we must. We carry guilt, longing, vows, unhealed wounds, unresolved desires. And these emotional imprints become gravity pulling us back into density. Even spiritual attainment can become a snare. Many who reach high levels of consciousness begin to identify with their mastery, their clarity, their role as teacher, guide, or mystic. But ego does not die at the gates of awakening, it simply evolves. And if identity is still present, no matter how subtle, the wheel remains in motion. There is also the trap of the astral, for between death and rebirth lies a labyrinth of illusion, beautiful, radiant, seductive. Realms of light, councils of beings, reviews of life, invitations to return one more time for love, for healing, for completion. These experiences feel divine, but they too are part of the matrix. A matrix not of computers, but of belief. The soul agrees to return, and so it does. All of this points to one root: identification. The soul forgets that it is the dreamer, not the dream, the projector, not the image. And as long as the dream feels real, the traps remain unseen. They hide within the soul's desire for progress, the mind's hunger for meaning, the heart's longing for connection. To step beyond these traps, we must first become aware of their nature. We must learn to recognize them not as obstacles, but as invitations to deeper remembrance. They are mirrors, each one reflecting a part of the self still asleep within illusion. And through this seeing, we begin to unhook, not by force, but by clarity. Now that the framework has been laid bare, now that we have begun to see the hidden mechanics behind the veil, we can step into the symbolic and mythic realms where these traps reveal themselves not just as patterns, but as archetypes, as forces with faces, as stories told through the language of the soul. Now let us descend from abstraction into the deeper waters of symbol where truth speaks in riddles, and the soul remembers not through reason, but through resonance. In every myth, every sacred text, every ancient path, these traps have been named in their own way, not as doctrines, but as living archetypes that shape the journey of the incarnated spirit. The 7 traps are not mere ideas, they are intelligences, energetic constructs, stories with gravity, and they have followed us across lifetimes like shadows that change form but never vanish. The first is the trap of identity, the belief that we are who we appear to be. In ancient Egypt, this was the mask of Osiris, who forgot his true self beneath layers of kingship, resurrection, and divine roles. The ego, clothed in spiritual purpose or human trauma, convinces the soul that the play is the truth. We become so entangled in the costume that we forget we were the actor all along. Each incarnation becomes another role, another name etched in dust, another layer of forgetting. The second is the trap of karma, an ancient game of balance that becomes a prison when mistaken for divine justice. In the Eastern myths, karma is law, but in the hidden teachings of the adepts, it is illusion, an echo of unresolved perception. Imagine a mirror that reflects not who you are, but who you once believed yourself to be. As long as the soul reacts, identifies, or clings to these reflections, it is drawn back thinking, I must finish, or I must repay. But who said the soul owes anything to the dream? The third is the trap of desire, not just sensual craving, but the subtler thirst for completion, recognition, legacy. In the Tibetan Bardo, souls are pulled toward rebirth by their attachments, not just to people or pleasure, but to meaning itself. I must return to fulfill my purpose. I cannot leave until my children are safe. Desire, even when noble, becomes a tether, and like a lotus reaching for the sun but rooted in mud, we spiral between worlds. Then comes the trap of saviorhood, a sacred snare for the awakened. This is the martyr's veil, the belief that one must save the world, carry others, heal the collective wound. The Christ archetype distorted, the bodhisattva misunderstood. In their purest form, these roles are vessels for love, but when ego clings to them, they birth the illusion that the soul must stay behind until all are free. And so, out of compassion laced with identity, the soul reincarnates again, carrying a burden it was never meant to hold. The fifth is the trap of judgment, not moral judgment of others, but the soul's judgment of itself. In the astral halls where life reviews take place, many souls condemn themselves more harshly than any external force would. I failed. I could have done more. I must return and make it right. But who is judging whom? The soul divides against itself, playing both jury and prisoner, never realizing that liberation was never withheld, only self-denied. The sixth is the trap of light, the shimmering realm of false ascension. Many who leave the body are greeted by radiant beings, gates of gold, celestial voices. It feels divine. But some of these lights are frequencies designed to recycle souls back into density under the guise of evolution. These realms are not evil, but they are layers of the simulation levels within the game. And if the soul accepts their invitation uncritically, it returns not out of purpose, but persuasion. And finally, the seventh, the trap of time. This is the illusion that evolution must be gradual, that awakening is a ladder, that freedom lies in the future. But the awakened soul remembers that time is a construct of the simulation. Liberation is not a path, it is a choice, a frequency shift, a remembrance. As long as the soul believes it needs one more life, one more lesson, or a bit more time, it remains bound to the spiral, not because the gates are locked, but because the soul continues to knock, not realizing it was always outside. These 7 traps are not punishments, they are mirrors. They reflect the soul's current perception of self, purpose, and reality. And in every myth, from the descent of Inanna to the labyrinth of Daedalus, from the wanderings of Odin to the trials of the Buddha, we see the same truth. Liberation requires seeing through the story. Not rejecting it, but seeing it as a story. In the ancient mystery schools, initiates were guided to symbolically die before death, to cross the threshold consciously, shedding identity, karma, desire, and role, layer by layer, until only the eternal remained. This was not symbolic alone, it was metaphysical training. The soul who awakens within the illusion begins to unbind the cords of return. So now, having witnessed the deeper nature of these traps not as ideas, but as living archetypes, we are ready to ask, how do we begin to dissolve them in daily life? How does this deep cosmic seeing begin to shape our human choices, our relationships, our sense of meaning? Now we begin to bring these ethereal truths down from the sky of symbol into the soil of our lived experience, where light meets shadow, and philosophy must become embodiment. For it is not enough to know the traps. Knowledge that remains in the mind is like a candle, unlit potential without radiance. Only when we apply it, breathe it, walk it, does it begin to unravel the ancient web of unconscious return. To live beyond the reincarnation cycle is not to reject life, nor to escape its richness, but to see through its dream with awakened eyes. It begins not with an act of rebellion, but with an act of remembering a sacred turn inward, where the soul gently peels away the illusions of "I am this" or "I must do that," and begins to dwell in the question, "Who am I without my story?" This question, lived, not just asked, is the first alchemy. It dissolves the trap of identity at its root. When you no longer define yourself by your wounds, your lineage, your work, or even your light, you begin to taste the eternal self. Not the personality, not even the higher self, but that vast, silent witness who has watched you live 1,000 lives and never changed. And in that recognition, the grip of karma weakens, for karma feeds on identification. It needs you to say, "This is my fault," or "This is my destiny." Without that, it cannot anchor. But the path is not to bypass emotion or pretend to be above human experience. It is to be fully present without attachment. When grief comes, you feel it deeply, yet you do not become the one who is grieving. When love arises, you let it fill you, yet you do not cling to the one who gives it. You begin to walk with open hands, neither grasping nor rejecting, and in that balance, the trap of desire loses its pull. Let us speak now of the trap of saviorhood, for it is one of the most seductive in spiritual circles. The awakened often feel the pain of the world so deeply that they believe their return is necessary. "I cannot leave until the earth is healed," they say. But this, too, is a veil. The truth is, your liberation is your greatest gift. The frequency you embody ripples through the field of humanity far more powerfully than your effort. You do not serve by staying in the illusion, you serve by transcending it, and by radiating the remembrance that no one needs saving, only awakening. Now consider the subtle trap of self-judgment. It hides in the folds of the spiritual ego, the part of you that believes you haven't done enough, learned enough, healed enough. But this loop only tightens the grip of reincarnation. The soul must learn the sacred art of forgiveness beyond logic. Forgiveness not just of others, but of self. And not because you deserve it, but because there is nothing left to forgive when you awaken to the illusion of separation. There is no crime in a dream, there is only awakening. As for the trap of false light, the astral seduction that many mistake for divine ascension, the antidote is discernment. When your soul departs the body, it will be offered visions, realms, guides, promises. But if you have cultivated inner clarity, you will not be swayed by appearances. You will feel the frequency. You will know what is still within the construct and what transcends it. And if you anchor that discernment now, in this life, it will follow you in death, like a compass through the veil. And finally, the trap of time, perhaps the most pervasive of all. It whispers that you must wait, that liberation lies somewhere in the future, that evolution is a ladder you must climb rung by rung. But liberation does not happen in time, it happens in presence. When you sit in stillness, beyond striving, and remember yourself as awareness, you collapse the illusion of progression. In that moment, you are already free, not metaphorically but literally. The gate is open, the wheel has no hold. So how then do we live in the world while no longer belonging to it? We become what the ancients called walkers between worlds, fully present, yet not possessed, engaged, but not entangled. We love deeply, but do not lose ourselves in others. We create with passion, but do not cling to the fruits. We serve not from duty, but from overflow. We speak truth, but with softness. We become strange to the world, gentle, luminous, and clear-eyed, because we are no longer trying to win the dream. We are here to witness it, to transform within it, and perhaps, if called, to leave it behind. And so, day by day, moment by moment, we loosen the cords, not through asceticism, not through perfection, but through presence, forgiveness, clarity, and surrender. We dissolve the need to return not because we reject life, but because we no longer mistake it for something it is not. And now, dear soul, we arrive at the edge of the mirror. You have looked deeply. You have seen the veils, named the traps, and touched the ancient cords that keep the spirit bound to the turning wheel. Not from fear, not from punishment, but from a forgetting so vast, it has dressed itself as purpose, as virtue, even as love. But now, the remembering has begun. This remembering is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is not fireworks in the sky. It is a quiet shift, a soul turning inward, whispering to itself, enough, enough of running, enough of roles, enough of striving through lifetimes to reach what was never lost. The moment you recognize the illusion, you loosen its grip, and the moment you stop needing to escape it, you are free. For the paradox of liberation is this: the soul who awakens doesn't flee the dream, nor fight it, they simply see it. They become lucid within it, just as a dreamer does when they realize they are dreaming. And in that lucidity, the dream no longer controls them. The wheel of reincarnation is not just turning out there, it turns within the psyche, within the emotions, within every thought loop that says, I am not yet enough, I have more to do, more to learn, more to suffer. That inner wheel is the outer one, and when you silence it, when you sit in the still point of now and remember yourself as the infinite witness, the wheel loses its center. It begins to crumble. The real revolution is not to destroy the system, but to become invisible to it. To no longer emit the frequency that keeps you bound. You do not fight the trap, you outgrow it. You become untouchable, not through defiance, but through stillness. And then, something miraculous occurs. The world continues, life continues, but you are no longer in it the same way. You become a traveler, a light bearer, a mirror to others still entangled. You may choose to stay not because you must, but because you wish to serve, freely, without contract. Or you may choose to go beyond the halls of karma, beyond the false heavens, beyond the light traps that beckon with glowing gates. You may choose the pathless realm, the return to source, or the merging into vast, nameless consciousness. Whatever you choose, it will be choice, not compulsion. And that, beloved, is freedom. So what now? What becomes of your days after such knowing? Perhaps nothing changes at first. You will still make tea in the morning. You will still feel sadness or joy. But beneath it all, you will know, this is not who I am. You will walk through life as the ocean walks through waves, touched but never moved, alive but not attached, present but no longer caught. This is the true initiation, the real sacred rite, not found in temples or texts but in the still, luminous presence you now carry. And the more you dwell there, the more others feel it. The illusion begins to weaken in the field around you. You become the crack in the matrix, the subtle invitation for others to awaken. And so I leave you with this final offering, not an answer, but a question. What if you never needed another lifetime? What if the very idea that you're not ready is part of the dream? And what if the gate has been open all along, waiting not for permission, but for perception? Look again, not with your eyes, but with your soul. You are not the dream. You are the dreamer remembering their power to awaken. And in that awakening, the wheel turns no more. If this message has stirred something ancient within you, if it has unlocked even one thread of remembering, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments. What did you feel? What did you remember? Subscribe to Journey Deeper. Like, if the resonance was real. And share this with others who feel the quiet call of liberation in their bones. The path ahead is not linear. It is inward. And it begins now. Welcome home.